What entered public domain in January 2022? Hi, I'm Jason Rosenblum. I'm an intellectual property attorney. I protect my clients' products, brands, and businesses from getting ripped off so they can focus on building their business. What entered public domain in January 2022, and what does it mean, public domain? So, public domain refers to copyrights and even patents. And the rights to a copyright or a patent, that monopoly, comes from the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, to promote the progress of science and useful art by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discovery. And essentially, they want people to create art. They want people to come up with new inventions for the public good. But they'll give you a limited term of a monopoly or initially so that you have an incentive to get it out there. The most recent term change for copyrights, which is mostly what people refer to when they're talking about public domain, was in 1998, and they changed it from 50 years to 70 years after an author's death, or for a work made for hire, 95 years after publication. A work made for hire is if you're working for a company and you create something for them, that's a work for hire. These changes, when they were applied in 1998, they were frozen essentially for 20 years. So for 20 years, nothing came out until 2019. And so now public domain 2022 works that were copyrighted in 1926 or sound recordings from 1923 are what is considered public domain now. There's slight changes, when they did it, but in general now all copyrighted works are 90 years after the author. So just to go back, one of the big ones in 2021 that came out last year was The Great Gatsby entered the public domain. This year, we're going to see The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway, Winnie the Pooh, As Time Goes By, which was in Casablanca, and Are You Lonesome Tonight? So what does that mean that it's in the public domain? What does it mean? It means you can copy or download those and you would not be an infringer. You can remix them for music or create a derivative work. Derivative works are if you take a book and turn that into a movie, that's a derivative. You take a book, translate it into different languages, that's a derivative work. You can use the music in soundtracks to audio video. Normally you would need to get a special license to incorporate a song into a video. So it makes it easier to do that. But there's a big warning here. So this only applies to the original work. And what happens a lot of times is throughout time is derivatives are created. So if you look back at Winnie the Pooh, the book itself, the original stories are in the public domain. But there was a TV show when I was a kid, from 1998 to 1991, The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. That's not in the public domain. So just because the underlying work is in the public domain does not mean you can take those movies and incorporate them or use them in any other way. Another way to look at it also is for Are You Lonesome Tonight, which originally came out in 1927. However, there was a number of versions. Probably the most famous one was Elvis Presley's Are You Lonesome Tonight, which is from 1960. So you wouldn't be able to use Elvis Presley's version because that's probably still protected by copyright, assuming they took care of doing what they had to do to protect it, and I would assume that they did, the recording label back then. But the original is off of copyright. So that's just a few ways of, and that's not a few ways, that's just a little bit of an explanation of what public domain means and what entered public domain in 2022. And if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to us. We're at 888-666-0062, jhrlegal.com, or you can even, in the link below, get a free copy of our ebook. Thanks, and have a great day. Great year.